Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the biggest headaches for anyone in software. I'm talking about deploying code. We're going to break down the DragonSource Blueprint, a really interesting framework that's designed to make deployments reliable, consistent, and possible in just about any environment you can think of.
So how do you solve the puzzle of a perfect software deployment? I mean, if you've ever built or managed software, this question probably hits pretty close to home. It's the reason for so many late nights and stressful rollouts, right? It's just this complex puzzle with way too many moving pieces.
And we've all lived this nightmare. You've got the classic, well, it works on my machine excuse. You have environments that are supposed to be identical but somehow drift apart. You've got that heart-in-your-throat feeling during a risky manual rollout. And of course, the big one, being totally locked into a single cloud provider. All of this just slows everything down and introduces a massive amount of risk.
Now, the DragonSource framework argues that fixing this isn't about finding another new tool or writing one more script. No, it requires a master plan. It requires a blueprint that defines exactly how every single piece of this complicated puzzle fits together.
Okay, let's dive into this blueprint. It all starts with one super foundational question. Where do you store all the configurations? The answer to this is literally the bedrock of the entire system.
At its heart is the blueprint directory. Just think of it as the single source of truth for everything. And it's not just some folder, it's a fully version-controlled repository for all your infrastructure as code. And that just means all your server, network, and cloud service setups are all defined in code files, living right there alongside your application.
And this structure is really deliberate. It's organized into 5 core directories, and each one has a super clear job. You've got one for deployment scripts, one for defining your environments like staging or production, another for feature toggles, one for automated triggers, and a final one for the infrastructure switchboard. The point is, everything has a logical home.
So here's the crucial point. This foundation gives you the absolute best of both worlds. You get rock-solid consistency because everything comes from that one single place, but you also get all the flexibility you need to customize each environment however you need to.
All right, so let's move to the next piece of the puzzle and see how this builds. Now that we know where things are stored, we have to answer the next question. What should each environment actually look like?
Now, what's really interesting here is how the system defines different profiles for every stage. It scales so elegantly from a single developer's laptop all the way up to a highly secure FedRAMP-compliant cloud for government clients. And that's a super strict US government security standard. And it handles everything in between.
And this isn't just a random collection of configurations, it's a clear, structured path. Your code and features migrate logically from local development, then through a small-scale pilot to validate everything, before finally reaching full-scale production or those specialized sovereign environments.
And this right here, this is the ultimate goal. You write your application code once. The huge insight here is that separating your application from its environment is the real secret to portability. The profiles handle all those tricky differences in scale, security, and configuration.
Okay, so we have the foundation and we have the environments. But how does the app itself change its behavior on the fly? Well, that's where the control systems come in.
The blueprint uses this really clever dual control mechanism. On one side, you have toggles, which give you that fine-grained control over specific application features. And on the other, you've got the switchboard, which abstracts away all the underlying cloud infrastructure.
The switchboard is kind of the system's secret weapon against cloud provider lock-in. So instead of coding directly for, let's say, Amazon S3, you just code for a generic storage capability. The switchboard then maps that to the right service, S3 on AWS or Google Cloud Storage on GCP, depending on where you're deploying. It's pretty brilliant.
So we've got the foundation, the environments, and the controls. That's our blueprint. Now let's look at the engine that actually reads that blueprint and puts the whole thing into motion. It all starts with a trigger. And this isn't about someone manually running a script. The whole system is designed to react automatically to specific events, which then kicks off a predefined automated workflow. And these triggers cover the entire life cycle. A developer pushing new code, that can trigger a deployment. A spike in errors, that can trigger an automatic rollback. High CPU usage, that can trigger a scaling event. There's even an emergency trigger for something serious, like a security breach.
Once a deployment is triggered, it doesn't just toss your code into production. It follows a very precise automated sequence. It checks out the code, runs tests, builds the application, and then, this is the key part, it carefully rolls it out using a canary strategy.
That means it shifts just a tiny bit of user traffic to the new version first, kind of like a canary in a coal mine, to make sure everything's stable before sending everyone over.
And this is where it all just comes together beautifully. The deployment engine is like the conductor of the orchestra. It reads the environment profile to know what to build, and it checks the toggles to know how it should behave, perfectly executing that blueprint every single time.
So when we just step back for a second, you can really see how all these individual pieces, the foundation, the environments, the controls, and the engine, all assemble into one cohesive system. We've actually solved the puzzle.
The DragonSource blueprint provides a clear answer to every single one of those critical operational questions. Where do configurations live? In the directory. What does the environment look like? It's defined by the profiles. How does it behave? That's controlled by toggles and the switchboard. And when do changes happen? That's all orchestrated by triggers and sequences.
So this really leaves us with one final thought. When you look at your own systems, is your deployment process a predictable, repeatable blueprint that gives you control and confidence, or does every single release feel more like a high-stakes gamble?